Oh, hey, we are live. Hey, it says the broadcast is live. Has it always done that? Because I always look at
It
the live
always
up here.
does that.
I have
Yeah.
never noticed that. What's up, wrestling fans? Once
Two,
again,
Bro-
I'm amazed by technology.
Two Bros Wrestling Show is live. And as always, when we're live, Doug is surprised. He always expects for it to be pre-recorded and then is surprised when he is actually like shows up and realizes he's alive, I'm alive. And
I'm waiting
we're
for
doing a
Kevin to
live
send me a
podcast.
show to edit, and it never happens. We just go live. He's like, no, that was live.
We'll work on that. Are you drinking like a lucha drink? Like I'm seeing like masks. Is there like
Those are Mandalorians, man.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, just from a distance, I thought that you'd gone all out tonight and were actually drinking from a wrestling themed cup.
Actually, I'm more Star Wars themed than I have a Mandalorian like shirt on and a Cassian Andor like hoodie, and my sweats are actually Star Wars sweats too. So, what show is this we're doing? Is this the wrestling show?
It's the
Do I need?
wrestling show.
So I should put away
It's
my
a
lightsaber that I was going to show and tell later. Then, gotcha.
you're fine.
Wrong show.
You're fine in what you're wearing. Do not change clothes. We're live. Remember, this is not something you
Right,
can edit out.
you're live.
You're
Gotcha.
going to get us kicked off the interwebs if you
Oh
start
my.
doing some sort. Or I don't know.
Hey,
Maybe the subscriber count goes up.
hey,
Maybe
man,
give it
I'm
a
I'm
try.
I'm ready to get some of that Mandy Sachs money. Let's do this.
We are going to drink from the cup of wrestling, Doug, even if it's not yours. We are on the road to WrestleMania. Tonight's main event topic, fans, is Royal Rumble. I have made no secret about the fact that next to Mania, Royal Rumble is my second favorite event of the year. So I am excited to talk about that. But before that, and even before our opening bell and news, Doug and I, we had talked about this ahead of time.
Mhm.
We are joining the rest of the wrestling world. Obviously, in this world of ours, wrestling is this fun escape, and then sometimes there's no escape from the realities of this world. And this week we lost Jay Briscoe at the age of 38. And when we do these, typically talking about someone we've lost, Doug, it's usually later in their lives after their careers, not one shocking, not this way.
Yeah, this one is really heavy, man, because all reports indicate to this just being a complete freak traffic accident that not only took his life, but the life of the driver of the other vehicle and seriously endangered his two daughters that he was taking to cheerleading practice, man. So
Cheerleading practice, yeah.
heartbreaking.
Like a normal human being, not like these indestructible
Right,
wrestlers that we
exactly.
watch, that we sometimes fool ourselves in our enjoyment of suspending reality while we watch this to think that these are
Yeah,
actually superhumans. And he was in a Chevy Silverado when another Chevy Silverado driven by a 27-year-old crossed the center line for reasons unknown at this time, and Jay was killed, and his 12 and 9-year-old daughters seriously and injured, have been in critical condition. The last report that I saw, Doug, I don't know if you have anything different. I can't remember if it was the 12-year-old or the 9-year-old.
yeah, I'll
Jay's
get
wife
that.
had reached out saying that, pray, because I guess she was not having movement. Her legs was needing some back operation, and
So I did read an update about that today that
good.
there is some feeling back in her legs now. Before there was, I think there was nothing below her thighs that she could feel, but there's some tingling and some movement below that now. I think both of those girls have a long way to go, unfortunately, and I don't know if either one of them knows about their father yet.
Well, I guess if there's any good news in this darkness is that there was feeling in the legs, because the family's obviously got like you said, a long way to go, and to have that on top of what they're going to have to deal with emotionally and physically, if it really looked bad there a couple of days ago. So I
Hmm.
was at least happy to hear
Absolutely,
that.
yeah.
And fans, if you're watching this, you're probably a diehard wrestling fan. But if you are just a casual wrestling fan, or just a fan of WWE and or AEW, I know most fans probably don't seek out a Ring of Honor. And so to that fan, Doug, there's a good chance that they may not even understand just how great a tag team Mark and Jay Briscoe were, because they never had a moment at the big time.
That's very true because I think there's a mentality up until probably when AEW came back on the scene or came on the scene. You have this lull between WCW when the WWE is, the top dog, the perhaps maybe the only thing that exists, but there are smaller promotions. You have your New Japans, you have your ROHs, you have your, CZWs. There are tons of promotions out there. And a lot of the guys that folks who are just familiar with WWE see on their TVs every day now came from these smaller promotions,
Yeah.
came up through. I mean, a lot of the great wrestlers that we love, they're in WWE right now, came up through ROH. ROH was almost NXT before NXT was NXT.
That's an excellent point, and there's a reason Tony Khan bought the property, even if it wasn't what it once was, and that
Right.
is, to Doug's point, that so much of what we see in the wrestling landscape today are folks who worked their way up the Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor was like the critics promotion. If you knew, you knew.
Yeah.
And this is where some of the best wrestling in the world was going on, especially in the early 2000s. And Mark and Jay they were there at the very first Ring of Honor show more than 20 years ago, and were there until the end. So if you don't know the work of Mark and Jay Briscoe, 13-time Ring of Honor tag team champions, including the current Ring of Honor tag team champions. The Briscoes were also held titles in New Japan. They were also Impact tag team champions, CZW. They've held belts around the world, but obviously Ring of Honor is where they're most associated with. Jay himself is also a 2-time Ring of Honor world champion and a 1-time Ring of Honor 6-man champion. They've done it all outside of the mainstream of WWE and AEW, which is what might be why it is hard for a casual fan who didn't seek out the Ring of Honor product to understand just what a big loss this is. Doug, when was the first time you remember seeing Jay? Because honestly,
That's a great question because I'm not sure I have an answer. I've been thinking about that since we were talking about doing this beforehand, before we actually even kicked the show off. And I don't really know. I remember seeing Jay and Mark cutting promos together, as talking about chicken coops and nonsense from Delaware. I'm like, who are these dudes? But I cannot put a date or a time to that. But I remember some very vignetted promos from these guys, and me not quite understanding what I was seeing at the time.
They were unique.
It was like they were very unique. It was like, is this a Stone Cold, character to the extreme? Is that what I'm seeing here? Oh, and he has there's 2 of them. They're like the Hardy Boys, but they're like Stone Colds. It was just so confusing to me. And like the Young Bucks, they talk about Papa Buck or Papa Briscoe. And it was just something very unique to me. And then you see them in the ring, and you're like, oh, especially in the last year. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that I've been diehard Briscoe fans from day one. I recognize what they bring to the ring, and in the past year, everything they've done with FTR has just elevated them to such a higher level in this old Mark's mind. But as far as saying, oh yeah, I saw them here and they've been great, and I knew them since day one, and I told you back in 20 years ago that they would be like RH Hall of Famers, first ones inducted. I can't pretend to do that because I kind of didn't get it at first.
Well, I didn't see the early years, and in some ways what folks would consider the glory years of Ring of Honor, because as hard as it is for the modern day fan to imagine, there was a time that unless you were into tape trading, not everything was available by a YouTube search.
That is very true, man. Yeah.
I mean, it was until, I had downloaded a few shows and watched a few Ring of Honor things, especially when you'd hear good things about like a particular event. But on a regular basis, Ring of Honor came on my radar regularly when I think it was HDNet was who first picked it up. It's changed hand a couple times. I believe, though, it's what the modern day access cable channel is.
Okay.
But That's when I started seeing Ring of Honor regularly. That's when I saw Jay and instantly made an impression. Both the Briscoes obviously made quite the impression. If you want to talk best matches, my goodness, if you wanted to say, let's look at the solo work, since I mean he is a world champion as well. Definitely, you would need to maybe check out his first world title win over Kevin Steen at the time, which was an amazing match. His
See,
solo match against Jay Lethal was incredible.
and that's the thing. You go back and you just look at his classic matches, whether it be with the Briscoes versus X Tag Team, because you've got Steen and El Generico, which is Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. His match with Adam Cole, his match with Kevin Steen. You know, and all the love that all of these wrestlers have put out into the world for him and his family this week.
Yeah. Especially if you notice whatever show they were on, if they'd ever had a Ring of Honor run or ties to Ring of Honor and therefore had a chance to work with him, it is your Kevin Steens, your Adam Cole, the ladder match, the ladder war he had with Adam Cole as a solo match. But obviously they're known for their tags, right? Way too many to mention, but if you're not familiar, fans, the 2007 match with the Motor City Machine Guns, absolutely unreal. Another Ladder Wars match, which may be one of the more brutal matches I ever saw in my life. That very same year, Kevin Steen and El Generico versus the Briscoe brothers, and that one. And then there was a match they had in Japan, the Briscoes versus Nakamura and Okada. Worth saying. And I mean, right up to the latter day, Doug, I mean, that we both just named the double dog collar match was each of our favorite matches of the last calendar year.
Absolutely. And my wife was texting me. She's, hey, did you know about this? And I was like, yeah, I did. I was like, he was just, Kevin and I were just talking about him days ago at that point, and got a match of the year out of both of us for that. And now he's gone.
So right to the very end, he was putting on that kind of high quality match. There was never a moment in Ring of Honor history where he wasn't helping steal the show. Stealing the show, Doug. I'm sharing my screen here. Hope you can see it.
Nice.
These are some personal shots. When I became a Ring of Honor fan, I became a huge Ring of Honor fan, and it became for a while my favorite promotion, as you said, Doug. NXT before we had NXT.
Right. Yeah.
This was the last time. This would have been April 2019, and my favorite pick I ever got of the Briscoes together. I was fortunate enough to catch 5 or 6 Ring of Honor shows through the years. Because they're so synonymous with Ring of Honor, the Briscoes were on almost all of those shows. And so there was this one, and then that's 2019. That's the very first time I saw them, 2012. Wow. And he in that match in 11 years ago at this point, it was their debut in West Virginia. They came to Charleston. He had a anything goes match against Charlie Haas, if you remember, obviously from Team Angle.
Oh yeah.
And there he is going through Charlie Haas in the table, which is one of my favorite shots I ever captured at a show. It's like, because usually that one ends up all blurry and things, but the Briscoes meant a lot, Doug. Their legacy is pretty much sealed. Whether you knew Ring of Honor or go back and watch the matches now, they hold up. And through that work, Jay Briscoe is going to live forever. Unfortunately,
true story.
The truth of the world was a lot less kind to the wrestling community this week. So rest in peace, Jay Briscoe. Well, Doug, with that, I'm going to get a opening bell going. I know it's an odd transition, but
hey, Kevin, tell me some crazy crap that Vince McMahon.
Isn't the right way to lose weight. I mean, why? The only thing I would say is, if you like doing cardio, keep doing cardio.
Happening here?
Well, ultimately,
what is going on?
So, Doug,
live TV or video?
It is live TV. We have a lot of news centered around Vince McMahon.
Tell me some crazy crap that Vince has done this week, man.
I've actually sent it to you because I'm going to have to drop off the show for like a minute. I'm about to have a forced restart So I just emailed you the headlines I was going to go through, and I will join right back in just a moment.
Oh my gosh, it's Vince WWE news.
It's all the headlines of everything since our last show, which we talked about this topic. We knew we'd have follow-up. This is all just within the last week. I will be right back.
All right, I will be reading the news. I need a teleprompter for all this.
You got this.
I got this. Go ahead and do your restart. Yes. Do you need me? No. Okay. All right. What's up, wrestling fans? Kevin has sent me all the news that is fit for consumption here. It goes on for about 3 days. Let's see if I can get it all done before Kevin gets back. So I was going to ask for craziness that Vince has done, and Kevin has given us craziness that Vince has done. Apparently, WWE filed a new Form 8K with the SEC on Tuesday, amending the company's bylaws. It repealed the written consent for Vince McMahon. Oh, it repealed the written consent Vince McMahon executed on January 5th as part of his return to WWE, which was the basis for an investigation claiming McMahon violated his fiduciary duties by executing the written consent as he changed the bylaws to impose his will on the WWE board. In their place is a new written consent, which pronounces that Vince McMahon no longer needs stockholder approval for his actions because, of course, he's Vince McMahon. Of course he doesn't. He doesn't need. This man is following his own rules. Oh my goodness. This is a story, and you know, Kevin being a public relations guy, I can totally understand this. But both the VPs of PR as well as communications are now gone from WWE. I mean, can you imagine running PR for WWE? The public relations vice president, Adam Hopkins' departure was after 25 years. This man spent 25 years there, and he given a lot of credit internally for developing Triple H's vision. I've seen a lot of folks talk about, you don't really hear about this guy in front of the camera, but behind the scenes, he did a lot. A lot of folks reached out to him. A lot of news came from him. He organized a lot of things, no longer with the company. This one I just found out about. Kevin's got it in his notes. Devon Dudley, behind the scenes producer for a while, has parted ways. I'm not sure if this is a firing, but and his firing, is this a firing? We'll have to wait till Kevin gets back because I thought he had just parted WWE. I know there was an issue recently where Bubba Ray or Bully Ray was doing a thing, and Devon was supposed to be involved with that, but essentially it came down to you can't do this or you're going to lose your job. So he chose not to appear at that show with Bully Ray. Kevin, did Devon actually get fired? Or did he just split with the company? I'm just reading your notes here. Are you on? Are you back yet? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Was this a firing, or was this him splitting and just being fed up with it that he got cut loose? Is this right? Am I reading this right? Oh, you're froze up. Okay. Kevin did say yeah. So, what are you functioning? Are you functioning? Kevin is not functioning. So I'm from what I'm getting from Kevin's limited no glitchiness, it sounds like Devon did actually get fired, which I completely read this story differently. So that is terrible for Devon because here comes the axe, folks. You know, Vince shows up, it's business as usual until it's not business as usual, because of course it's not, because it's Vince. And, you know, Triple H has, of course, been giving the SmackDown and Raw locker rooms the same speech about how he's the head of creative. But you know, Kevin has in his notes here that there's a lot of behind the scenes going on where folks do talk about, you know, Vince is still whispering in Triple H's ear and has a bit of creative. So I'm not really sure what's going on there. My God, Kevin, you... Your notes are amazing. So I really do need a teleprompter for all this. But let's jump on to Nick Khan here. Gave his first public interview since all this started. Khan, who is now the sole CEO, because let's not forget Stephanie McMahon was co-CEO with Khan up until her father returned to the business. And now Khan is co-CEO. Of course, he's praised Vince. And, you know, I've seen a lot of this. This is a little Doug commentary I'm going to stick in here. But, you know, after the board unanimously voted that it was a bad idea for Vince to return, They quickly unanimously voted that it was a good thing for Vince to return. And now everybody involved is talking about how it's great for Vince to be back. Um, Ed Con, oh yeah, it looks like Con also was dodging questions about Stephanie commenting on the family business. And, there's also intrigue to the sale, saying such a thing can happen quickly. And of course, this is the opposite of Triple H. And what others have been saying is this is going to take time to sell to anybody, whether it's Saudi or anywhere else. And oh my goodness, finally on the Vince saga here. Wall Street Journal reported that Vince McMahon settled the former referee Rita Chatterton. In a 1992 interview, Chatterton claimed that Vince raped her. This is a ridiculously serious allegation, folks, that has been going on since 1992. In the back of a limousine? Oh my gosh, I didn't realize this. So it was in 92 that this came to light, but this was in 1996 that this allegedly happened. She originally demanded $11.75 million in damages. Oh my goodness! What did Vince settle this with?
He settled this past week. She's been she made the allegations way back when, and of course this has been one of those like bad secrets for years about Vince until of course his recent problems, and because of his recent problems, she came back out of the woodwork to bring this story back to now when, people might be more likely to do something about it. After Me Too and all of that, back in the day, it was just he said, she said. And now that we know what we know about Vince and what we should have known the whole time about Vince, she came back and demanded in November $11 million. I'm sure she settled for far less than that. And in fact, they have kept it under wraps as to exactly how much, but he did settle. Now that is not an admission of guilt, but it is also a make this go away before like we have this big sale, because this is the last thing we need is the rape allegations coming back up in all of this.
So, and that's just it. Cause I did see something about this where Vince's lawyer is saying, of course, he is admitting to nothing with this. He just wants to go ahead and get this out of the way and put it behind us because they're a bigger corporate fish to fry, essentially. That's crazy though. After, paying all of these other ladies, all of this other money and launching this huge investigation.
And that's the thing. I mean, from Rita's point of view, she just saw these other women get millions of dollars, and she's been claiming this for 20 some years and probably saw her opportunity to take her shot. And Vince ponied up probably close to the tune of $7 to $8 million is what insiders are thinking she probably ended up settling for.
Oh my goodness. This man is, and this is my, this man, and I, even though I've heard from multiple sources, read multiple things, dirt sheets, other YouTube shows talk about how Vince has no intention of being on TV until Triple H approves it. I will not be shocked if this man walks right out on Monday night for Raw 30. If he doesn't open the show, I mean, and it's called Raw Triple X. That is not lost on anybody that when this slimy old man is going to walk out there.
And Doug, thank you for I apologize for that, and then the choppy getting back on as the computer got going. But thanks for carrying that. That is the Vince saga of the week, and I'm sure we'll have. Well, I'm afraid we'll have just as many bullet points by next week.
And this is what you do every week. Well, I just sit on this end and ramble.
I'm afraid I just sent you the Vince news, and I actually have more.
Well, all right. I'm going to enjoy my not lucha drink and hear what you have to say.
I'll take us through the end of the news. Real
take
quick.
Us home.
Hip hip hooray! Cheering. Stardom is allowing cheering at all major events for the first time in 3 years. Since the start of the COVID pandemic, Japanese companies had been super cautious, more so than we were here. That includes the banning of vocal cheering at live wrestling events. On the heels of New Japan just hosting Wrestle Kingdom, which was the first full house Wrestle Kingdom they had since pre-pandemic, and also they allowed cheering at Wrestle Kingdom with no issues. Its sister company, the Stardom promotion, the female wrestling promotion, is now being allowed to do the same. They will have cheering beginning February 4th in Osaka. Colby Corino coming to WWE, Doug. It is being reported the son of ECW legend Steve Corino is likely NXT bound. Colby had been a regular on NWA, but his contract expired at the end of 2022, and it appears that after a Performance Center tryout, he is getting the call and will soon be making his appearances with the NXT brand. So good job, Steve. And
awesome.
I guess Colby.
Yeah.
MLW announced that they have signed a deal to air on a cable network, Reels, and a new version of MLW Underground, which was the original name of their TV series when they started 20-some years ago. They're bringing that back beginning February 7th. Reels is in the top 30 most watched cable networks in the country. So this is a huge step up for them from being on BN and things. It's on most cable providers, a lot of the streaming services, just not the one that Doug and I have. So we're not getting it, but there's a very good chance that your service has it. Check out beginning February 7th. You can watch MLW. And then I'll wrap up the news segment by saying congratulations. After the way we had to start, let's end on some really good news here.
Let's do it.
Casey Lee, Sean Spears, the birth of their first child.
All right.
And so congratulations to the two of them, two former WWE talents. And with Sean, I guess Sean's still with AEW, is he?
I was going to ask, being the mark that I am, I was going to be a very embarrassing question for me to ask, but is he still in AEW, or is he taking some paternal leave?
Maybe Tony's giving him some paternal leave. I know Casey stepped away from Impact and basically called it a career for now. But congratulations to the new family. And with that, Doug, I am ready to talk about the ridiculousness that is professional wrestling and escape the real world for a while. So what do you say? Let's talk Royal Rumble.
Let's talk Royal Rumble, man, because I'm looking at the matches already, and there's not a lot. Especially with this women's Royal Rumble, there's not a lot to talk about just yet. We were a week from this. Come on.
Yeah. So because the Royal Rumble has 2 Royal Rumble matches on it now, which usually go about an hour long. The card is never long. One reason I knew we'd have time to do an extended tribute at the beginning to Jay, which we obviously should have been doing anyway. But I thought, I'm looking at 4 matches. It's not going to take us long to go through this. But because of that, there's a lot more to the Royal Rumble than who wins and loses. So we're going to talk about who we think is going to have some big moments. Who do we think are going to be maybe surprise entrants? And Doug, both for men and women, I want to talk about who we think the final 4 are going to be in that ring, because all of this sets up the road to WrestleMania. Let's talk first about the matches that aren't Royal Rumble matches.
Yeah, let's run through those. That's pretty easy.
Well, except for whatever the heck, explaining what a Mountain Dew Pitch Black match is.
I think they both have to chug a 2-liter of Mountain Dew Pitch Black.
Let's start with that ridiculousness first. What do you say? So we got Bray Wyatt versus LA Knight. There's no way in the world, whatever this is, that LA Knight's winning. Can we agree on that?
We are total in agreement on that. However, beyond that, I don't know what this is. I'm not sure anybody knows what this is.
And they say that as a selling point on TV, the rules are unknown. Like either they're trying to hide the fact that the corporate sponsorship is going to make it something closer to that Pizza Hut match that was an embarrassment to them a year or so ago when Miz and Morrison were literally eaten alive by zombies.
Zombies, right?
And then pizza was thrown into the crowd or what have you. But who knows? I'm sure there will be some sort of Mountain Dew tie-in. I hope it's just a lights out match and not anything that's overly hokey and embarrassing, but I'm afraid it's going to be overly hokey and embarrassing.
Yeah, I expect shenanigans. I expect Uncle Howdy to show up. I expect I'm not sure what I expect because I'm really confused about Bray Wyatt, which I think is a good thing. I think it's
Okay.
a very good thing because I'm not sure if he's Uncle Howdy. I think, or is he? And then the Firefly stuff he did this week on TV, where everybody's kind of back, but they're not back. And then there's the Alexa Bliss Uncle Howdy stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I guess there is the off chance too, but I don't think this happens. But it's wrestling, so you never know. But there's that off chance that LA Knight becomes part of whatever the Wyatt Six is supposed to be, but it's not part of the Wyatt Six. It's part of, Uncle Howdy's stable with Alexa Bliss, Uncle Howdy, and maybe Uncle Howdy gives the assist to LA Knight.
Hey, I'd be actually happy with that booking because I mean I think LA Knight is way too talented a character to just be the guy to get other guys over. This is still early on in the return of Bray Wyatt, and so LA Knight is not a legitimate threat at all in this match. But to bring him in the fold would be kind of awesome, honestly, because I see more from LA Knight than just that role of gatekeeper.
Yeah, I do too. But I see Rock in LA Knight too, especially the way he cuts his promos, the way he carries himself, and unless we're going with a Nation of Domination thing here, where LA Knight becomes the tribal chief of that with the quickness, and dethrones Uncle Howdy, which I'm assuming has some sort of leadership role in all this. I don't see it happening, but like I said, it's wrestling. Who knows? Who knows, man?
What we do know is Bray Wyatt's winning this. Doug and I agree on that one. What we don't know is...
I'm adding my caveat. You know what? I'm going to go against you just for kicks and giggles and say there's shenanigans, and LA Knight does pull it off somehow because of Uncle Howdy shenanigans, because it is the Royal Rumble. The Royal Rumble is where not only, the stars of WrestleMania are made, but it's the matches that push towards WrestleMania start to get made. Those usually happen in the match itself, in the Royal Rumble match itself, where these feuds start with who eliminates who. Maybe we see one here. Maybe LA Knight, gets the win because of Uncle Howdy, but then there's Uncle Howdy versus Bray Wyatt. Maybe that's the way things go.
Doug, you've obviously been drinking too much Mountain Dew.
Pitch Black. Feel free to sponsor us.
Yeah, I'll say whatever you want if you'll sponsor us, Mountain Dew.
I just read all this news from Kevin. I'll read a script for Mountain Dew Pitch Black. Send it my way. I'll dump my Diet Coke out and chug Mountain Dew.
It's all we drink, folks. It's all we drink. Send us that sponsorship money. Doug, Raw Women's Championship. Bianca Belair defending against Little Miss Bliss.
So, and here's the thing too. Again, we've got possible shenanigans because we had Uncle Howdy showing up for like a beatdown this week. Yeah. So, I don't think it's time to take the belt off Bianca yet. But I think it's too soon to pull a whatever is happening with Bliss flip here. I think we're getting a slow burn because Triple H does like a slow burn. I like that about Triple H. There are these slow burns that are coming. This feels like something that happens at WrestleMania, not right now. So I'm not sure where to go with this. I'm going to say Bianca still walks away with the belt. There's maybe Uncle Howdy shenanigans again, but it doesn't lead to Bianca losing her title.
So we've seen Alexa snap. We've seen her beat down Bianca. I think she goes full character development, heel, whatever it is she is becoming on the road to WrestleMania, she's going to become it on this night. And I'm actually going against Doug on this one and saying this is our title change. This is the title change that happens on this night. And Bliss walks away with the belt, which leads, well, I won't say to where it leads because I'm going to talk about that here in a little bit.
I know where it leads, and I agree if that happens. See, this is the thing with the Rumble. There's a lot of if-then situations that happen because if that happens, I agree with you already about the Women's Rumble. But
actually, now that I think about it, Doug, let's talk about for a second card placement here because my theory falls completely apart if they separate one Rumble from the other, which they have typically done. Start with a Rumble and end with a Rumble and put the other matches in between.
That is very true.
if they do that, then I'm going to have to. This is my caveat. If we open with a women's rumble, Bianca retains. If we don't, Bianca's losing.
I agree totally with that setup. If we open with a women's rumble, Bianca retains. If we don't open with a women's rumble, I agree with your booking for that title match and your booking for the women's rumble.
Because if she loses, Bianca's coming right back in the rumble. That's what I'm getting at.
Absolutely.
But that's only set up if, and I think it will be with some sort of Bray Wyatt involvement. These first two matches are definitely going to be tied together with Bray Wyatt shenanigans and the next evolution of that story, where we maybe see where this is pointed to.
And there has to be like some breather in between these two matches, because there's too much Wyattness going on with these things.
True. Yeah, that's true. And it is a thin card right now, but we do have one more week of TV, and one of those episodes is a pretty significant one on the WWE calendar, and that's celebrating 30 years of Raw. Getting one more match added would not be a surprise. Doug?
Yeah, that's crazy because, you're right. We've got LA Knight, Bray Wyatt, Bianca, Alexa, and then, we've got Roman versus Owens.
That's where I was going next. So KO is going to be your new undisputed Universal Champion at the end of all of this. Hey. The Two Bros Wrestling Show. We love Kevin Owens as much as we love anybody. But
absolutely.
There's no way in the world KO is the man to end 800 and whatever days. It's not going to be KO.
I love KO. Steen is awesome, but I have a better chance of dethroning our tribal chief than KO does this, next week.
So we are in agreement on that. I also think this will probably end up being the match of the night, because when they touched before, they had good chemistry together. It wasn't a long feud, but when they had a feud early in the Roman Reigns title reign, it was a heck of a match that they had, and I think they'll do it again.
And really, they went a long way to putting KO over as like some Stone Cold-esque, and it very much helps that he uses a stunner too, and that pop-up power bomb. But that stunner and just coming in and kind of like cleaning up with the bloodline, leaving the tribal chief just laying in the ruins of a table, to have Sammy come in at the end and kind of run him off.
I mean, I think Sammy involvement can pretty much be expected in this as well. Whose side, that not be to be determined, but there's no way that this is not the next chapter in the Sami Zayn bloodline storyline, because you got his former best friend against his tribal chief as the relationships start to get more strained on this road to WrestleMania. And I love that we don't exactly know where it's going. We have some hints of where it may be going.
Yes.
It's not going to a KO title reign.
Unfortunately, it's not. It's not.
Although I will say, I know we have a lot of caveats, but there is so many moving parts to a Royal Rumble and so much reshuffling of the deck, both by Royal Rumble itself as well as legitimately behind the scenes right now, that you can't count anything totally out. It does seem, Doug, that they are definitely intent on splitting these titles up.
And I do not have a problem with them splitting the titles up. I've said this before. Reigns needs to lose whichever title he won most recently, so that ridiculously long title reign can continue. But the most recent, and I don't remember which one it is, message us, comment, whatever. Let us know if you guys know. And don't cheat. Don't go to Wikipedia right now. But whichever one he has, I think he does need to drop that. This isn't the night to drop that, though. Maybe on that, is it Roadblock or Road Rage or whatever it is between
I think that it has to happen before Mania, because if the reason they're doing it, and I understand it personally, I wish we had one tag champ and one world champ, and that would be it. But Monday night, we're going to see, I think it's the Raw tag team titles, I think are the ones that it would make sense.
Yes,
on
with
Raw. But
the House of Purple and Uso. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you get more feuds for more title belts if you have these split up before Mania. So you can have time to build to. So I do think that we're going to finally see Roman take a loss at some point. and lose one of those titles. And it very well may be because of something that Sammy does or something that somebody else does. But Roman's big feud is going to end up in him ending one of these title reigns pre-WrestleMania, in my opinion, if they're intent on splitting these up. Just not Royal Rumble.
Yeah, not the Rumble. I don't know what it's called. Roadblock, Road Rage, Road Rash, whatever road it is that they do in February. The name obviously escapes me right now, but it's that Road to WrestleMania pay-per-view in February. Before that like quiet time right before Mania really pops, or at the beginning of April.
We usually see an elimination chamber match.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. There's an elimination
because you get 5 possibilities to shuffle the deck again for your WrestleMania one of your WrestleMania main events, which is one way that they can keep intrigue on it. When they went to monthly pay-per-views, it kind of took a bit of the air out of the balloon between January and sometimes as late as mid-April, because once you have that card set, there's not a lot in the way of surprises on the road. Elimination Chamber is definitely a wild card situation where you can, now that you have multiple main events and multiple nights, you can do a little more playing around and keep people guessing on that booking.
I stand corrected. I'd forgotten about road chamber. That's not right.
Doug's determined to get on the road for some reason.
I am on the road to WrestleMania, man. I don't know about anybody else on the show. I am ready to get to WrestleMania.
Well, then let's talk about that, Doug. Women's Royal Rumble match.
Dude, this card is so light with announced people right now. This is ridiculous.
Because they want to keep it, and supposedly backstage they're saying, again, this might just be hype, but the word that Meltzer and other folks are putting out there is that WWE internally are really happy with their surprises in store for Royal Rumble.
Well, that's cool, man. But right now I'm reading Liv Morgan, Candice LeRae, Rhea Ripley, Raquel Rodriguez, Shayna Baszler, Zelina Vega, and Emma. And that's all out of 30. That's 7 women out of 30 right now in the Women's Royal Rumble.
This exposes the little secret of the women's revolution, is that while we have elevated women's wrestling, there's still not enough female superstars to fill something as large as a Royal Rumble without what they have typically done. And I expect to see more of the same this time. Is you'll see a lot of legacy acts. I'm thinking your Trish's, your Kelly Kellys. And I think that you will see NXT women brought up as well, not for a permanent stay, just to hey, here, let's see the pop they get. Let's gauge what a big crowd does for these. Your Toxic Attractions, Cora Jade, Roxanne Perez. I'm thinking of Nikita Lyons, someone that has an interesting charisma, just kind of like they did Keith Lee back in the day. Just put them out there and see how fans react to them. So that's how they're going to have to fill this Rumble, honestly. I think Beth Phoenix is going to be involved. I think she'll be one of the surprises.
We'll get a Melina, maybe a Trish Stratus, maybe a Lita. Do
you see any big returns outside of legacy acts or NXT talent? I think Naomi's. I think this is if Naomi's back, this is the spot for Naomi.
You're right. If Naomi is back, this is the spot for her. I would love to see her be absorbed into the bloodline prior to WrestleMania. If she is coming back, this is the perfect place for her to come back. I don't see her winning. I think, we nailed it down earlier, depending on the placement of matches earlier. I think if there's a women's title match early before the Women's Royal Rumble, then Bianca will drop the belt. She will win the Rumble and will then begin feuding with Alexa going into Rumble. I believe that, other than that happening, let's say Bianca holds on to that belt because that Women's Royal Rumble comes first. Who then?
I think that you're going to get big things. Again, sometimes the spotlight as to who has the most eliminations or most memorable moments has nothing to do with who ultimately ends up winning. But I think that because they've done a good job of having the faction get over. I think Rhea Ripley and her role as mommy here and one of the bigger women, I think both she and Raquel Gonzalez as the female giants
Yeah.
They'll be the ones like beating the heck out of each other and eliminating the most women. When it gets a little crowded in there, look to those two to clear to sweep up a little bit and pave the way for the others.
That's totally what I was thinking. I think, we get down to those final four here. We're going to see Rhea, Gonzalez. And then I don't know. I mean, if Bianca loses, Bianca's obviously in those. If Bianca loses her bout earlier on, Bianca's obviously in that final four. If she doesn't, I'm not sure who comes out. I really like. Woohoo! Oh well, yeah. Who comes out?
I think final four for me is Rhea. I think that Rhea, Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, and I think Bianca, if she loses the belt earlier, will be in that final four. And I think she wins if she's in it. If she's not in the Royal Rumble, my overall winner is going to be Becky, and then they go another route to either. Becky, we get Becky and Bianca rematch, or we get Becky going for Becky Charlotte getting the singles match that Ronda Rousey put herself in the midst of last time around.
Okay.
Do you have a thought about who wins? Because I don't think that Ronda, I
think Ronda
may, yeah. I revisited my notes. My initial notes, of course, had Ronda as being a major factor because she's been such a factor in the last 5-6 months of WWE.
Right.
But she's giving the indication now that she wants to do tag.
You're right.
And
yeah.
not single. So I don't think she's really involved in the WrestleMania picture.
No, I don't think so either. I think she and Baszler eventually pick up, the women's tag titles, but I'd go ahead and get that started and book that for WrestleMania, but I don't know that that's even going to happen now. Man,
so
I don't
do you
know.
Book Bianca? You think Bianca's going to win?
If Bianca loses early on, I am absolutely on board with you. That is classic Royal Rumble booking. I cannot argue with it. If, just moved everything there. If Bianca holds on to that title early on, I'm saying Ripley comes away with it because I would like to see some sort of Ripley interaction with somebody and not, I don't want to see Becky Charlotte or even as great as it was a Becky Ripley, or not Ripley. I'm sorry, a Becky Bianca thing again. I'd like to see something new, something fresh, and like to see Rhea Ripley get that shot at a huge arena full like she didn't get before.
I think Rhea is really finding her stride on the main roster now in a way she wasn't last time she was featured. And like you said, not even in front of a crowd. And I think it's always good when you can move someone else up into that main event scene and she's ready. There's no doubt she's ready.
Mommy is ready, man.
I like that booking. Hey, that would keep Dominic in on our TV too. He can
Dominic is great in the role he is playing right now. I mean, it's good TV.
And we'll see more of that in the men's Royal Rumble, Doug. That's a good segue because I think that even if it's the comedy bits, because there's always in an hour you have the hectic times, you have the dramatic times, you have a little comedy as well. And I think Dominic is going to provide some comedy in the men's surprises. I think there's more room for surprises in the men's Royal Rumble. And I think that it'll go last because I think that this is where the biggest surprises are going to be. So surprise entrance. I think Edge is making his return. It's time.
Yeah, it's time for Edge. I don't know. Yeah.
This is where Cody. This is where they. It's come out that the reason they gave Cody's return away in advance is because they were so satisfied with the number of surprises they already had for Royal Rumble, which makes me think it's probably got to be on the men's side, and that's why I think we want to see some returns here.
Yeah, so maybe is Randy able to wrestle? Are we going to see some RKOs? Are we going to see some RK Bros?
That would be a big surprise.
I think we see Riddle before we see Randy, though. I can see him returning now. I think it's time. We're going to support.
because we saw him last SmackDown of the year, I think John Cena gets a WrestleMania payday and gets in there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going on a limb here and say that even though I have nothing in the rumors to back this up, I say Miro or
Ooh.
Rusev, and not CJ, but Lana accompanying him are going to be a surprise entrance.
That would be
that'd be huge.
That would be huge. I have one person who I think would be a huge surprise. Although it might end up being a question mark to some fans who don't necessarily follow New Japan, but it's more my dream surprise actually, and get him into the Final Four. He doesn't go over in the Final Four, but you get him into the Final Four to start building him a WrestleMania match. But Rusev would be great.
Who do you have?
Tama Tonga.
Yeah.
Tama Tonga. It's time. He doesn't need NXT. He goes. I mean, the man is 40 already. Yeah. He's 40 already. He comes in. There's a lot of heat there. And Tama Chameleon.
That's where I thought you were going with that.
But Tama Tonga comes in, cleans up, is in the Final Four before being dispatched by somebody who can put him on the road to WrestleMania. But Miro, wow, I hadn't even thought about Miro.
Your wife's going to cut off your Mountain Dew. That's what happens. He's too high on Mountain Dew. Doug, I want to go ahead and I'm calling it. I know that there's some folks saying that, well, he's got too much going on. The thing that's the worst kept secret we all thought would happen on the road to WrestleMania in Hollywood. I'm going to go ahead and call it and say it's a red herring. The Rock is going to be in the Royal Rumble.
So here's the thing, man. Anybody who's seen any recent photos of Rock can't say he is not in ring shape.
And that cracked me up. Like, look at the poor guy. He's let himself go.
I mean, yeah. I mean, just him going to pick up some groceries, the dude is in ring shape. Now, he may not be. He is clearly going to be able to shake off that ring rust before then. But yeah, I mean, the Rock is the most obvious. Yeah, TY is right. It is the most obvious choice. He comes in really high up there too. He's not like 1 or 2. He's like 29 or 30.
Yeah, that big pop to the end. And I mean, yeah, there is shape and then there's ring shape. I have no doubt that he probably needs to do some work to get into some ring shape. But to say that he doesn't have time to get into shape for a WrestleMania match, I'm thinking that's trying to throw us off the scent. The reason that Cody is allowed to be an entrant in advance and not save him for a surprise, it's got to be something bigger than that. And what more could be bigger than that other than, someone coming from AEW or the obvious one, which I think is what we're getting, and that's The Rock.
And I really think that starts to take shape since we're on this, tomorrow night at Raw 30.
I know it's on at your house, Mary Beth, so you'll have a chance.
Yes, it's not like we have an 80-inch TV in the living room. It's not like she's going to miss it. And I'm not sure why she's not in here. She's like 2 rooms away. Come on in here and do the show with me.
No, it's viewership. We like this. Doug, who have some big Royal Rumbles? I think that, again, you got to give the Giants their time of looking like Giants. So
absolutely, Omos and Omos and Braun. They throw a bunch of people out. They go head to head. That ridiculousness happens because that's what happens at Rumble.
And here's another one. He may have wrestled earlier, but Bray Wyatt is not Uncle Howdy. Uncle Howdy's in the Royal Rumble. Bray Wyatt's in an earlier match.
Oh,
Uncle Howdy.
Okay.
Or the Firefly Funhouse. Like, there's so many personas at play here. He is going to be in the Royal Rumble, and I think there'll be more hocus pocus to move things along.
Yes.
Honestly, and provide some variety in that hour. Cody's got to have a big return, so he's going to have a big run.
Absolutely. Cody gets. Cody, when that music starts, Cody gets a huge pop, just like he did when he returned to WWE, without a doubt.
And I think that Seth Rollins, is probably going to have a lot of eliminations, probably go a long bit of time. As someone who is seen as a main eventer, you have to have some guys there at the end that seem like they could win. You're not going to see maximum male models in your final four or anything. It all has to be folks that you believe might have a shot.
I would love to see the Steiner kid get in there, get into like maybe not the final four, but have Braun Breaker in like maybe the final five before somebody puts him out. I would love to see that.
I talked NXT for the women just because I think they need it to fill out the field. The men's doesn't. But do you think that you see any NXT guys making it into that match? Do you think that obviously Braun would make sense?
If anybody, it would be their champion. It would be Braun. Coming up. Making a main roster debut. If it's even to just get thrown out by Baron Corbin or something. And
I mean, he did win the title on Raw. So
Yeah, right.
The fans know this guy. It would be one way to continue to introduce him because it's not much longer for he's on the main roster. I mean, he's ready as well. Doug, final four then of the men's, and if we're done talking surprises and who's going to have a big night, here's what I got.
Okay, what do you got?
The Rock, if he's in it, is going to be.
If he's in it, yeah. If he's in it, if Rock's in it, he's winning. So
Cody Rhodes is there.
Yep.
Cody Rhodes is there, and then you got KO and Sami Zayn.
Yes.
Sammy has got to be in the final four in some way to seem like a threat. And maybe the Usos end up there closer to the end. Maybe you can replace somebody. Like there's got to be some bloodline drama in the end of our Royal Rumble to set things up as well, even if it has nothing to do with the final winner.
And here's the thing, too. The bloodline drama starts when Sammy is in the final four. You're totally right. But Sammy's not winning this. But it's there because you have the real head of the table in The Rock. You have Sammy going so over being in that final four that's where Sammy once again gets kicked out of the bloodline.
I mean, if Rock's in this thing, he's winning, right?
Yes,
if Rock's in this thing, he's winning, and we get the match we've all thought we'd be getting all along, and we'll all be happy with it because it's exciting to think this might happen. If it's not an instance where The Rock really is unavailable, and what is the break glass moment? Because I'm thinking if it's not The Rock that wins, I'm saying it's Cody Rhodes.
Man, if it's not The Rock, I want it to be Sammy. I really want it to be Sammy, but he doesn't make it. Unfortunately, he does not make it to WrestleMania, and that may be the red herring right there with Sammy, where Sammy actually does win. Sammy cashes in at like Road Chamber or whatever it is before WrestleMania, not cashes in, but is manipulated into, all right, you know what, Tribal Chief, let's just do this now, and then that's where we take a belt off of him before.
If Roman's forced to wrestle in the Elimination Chamber and you got multiple other people that can take you out, you don't even have to be involved in the finish. You could just be bad luck and you can be eliminated before. Like there's so many ways you can get one of those titles off him without making the Tribal Chief look like he took a straight up loss, that they may go that way to protect the gimmick of 800 plus going on however many days. Brock is the obvious winner here, man. But if he's not in it, do you think it could be a Sammy, or do you have somebody else? If not, Rock?
I would love for it to be Sammy, but Cody. I think Cody is the obvious choice. I just really want it to be Sammy. I just really want that to happen. I would love to see Sammy have his WrestleMania moment, but I don't think if it is Sammy, I don't think Sammy makes the WrestleMania as that number one contender, as the person who's taking on the Tribal Chief.
I ain't hating on you on that one. I mean, I think it's going to be Rock if he's in it for sure. We agree on that. If Rock's not in it, I think we seem like we both think it's going to be Cody. But if it ended up being Sammy, I would be pleasantly surprised. That would be awesome.
Or we could, and they would put on an awesome, I'm talking tear the house down WrestleMania match. How about this? This is some totally insane armchair booking, right?
Uh-oh. Let me get ready. Where's my
Sammy,
Mountain Dew?
get your.
Get my pitch black.
I almost called it code red. Yeah, get that
Code.
too. So check this out. Sammy accidentally wins the Rumble, right? Rock's not involved, okay? Rock's not involved at this point. Sammy wins the Royal Rumble. Steen or Owens, like you're talking about, wins Elimination Chamber. Sammy, to prove his loyalty to the bloodline and it continues the whole bloodline thing, Sammy goes after Steen's belt, Owens' belt at WrestleMania. There we go.
So
that takes away.
This is the fun part about Royal Rumble. There are
Totally.
so many directions you can go with it that it is, to me, the worst Royal Rumbles are those when it's been a foregone conclusion who's going to win. I love the not knowing and the multiple paths you can take to get to your final destination. Even if you know that final destination, there's so many ways you can go through it in the Royal Rumble. It's what makes it one of my favorite of the year. Doug, let's end it on our main event topic, talking about this just for a moment. Do we think that I know last month when we were doing our Christmas gifts and what we want from Triple H, I'm like, this is going to be the opportunity to really put your stamp on creative, go nuts, bring crazy returns, wild booking. Let's make up for last year's Rumble, which was historically bad. And now we've had the drama we've had since. Do you think any of the backstage business is going to should tamper our expectations for just how out of the box they'll get with this? Will they play it safe because of a sale? Will they play it safe because of Vince? Will Vince come back and win the Royal Rumble? He is a former winner. I mean, there's so many awful things now that, worry you. Do you think that the Vince thing is going to put a shadow on this event, or do you think it'll go on without a hitch and us none the wiser as far as what's going on behind the scenes?
I know Vince is famous for tearing up the Raw scripts like hours before they go live. I'm not going to say that couldn't happen, but I think a lot of money and time has already been invested in something like a premium live event, especially like one of the marquee live events like Royal Rumble. A lot has to go into that, and I don't see them, especially it seems like a lot of WWE personnel are starting to get future endeavored again. Not necessarily the on-air staff, but a lot of folks are getting future endeavored again, and that may be for to make it look a lot leaner than it for that future sale. But they're not going to say, okay, yeah, we promised you 100,000 for this appearance. We're contractually obligated to pay you for that, but don't show up now. Things like that. I think we're going to get what Triple H had initially envisioned. The outcomes may start to be altered now as Vince, even though he allegedly has no hand in creative control. I don't believe that for a second. So. Those visions may be altered, but we're still going to get some craziness that had already been put in motion beforehand.
I hope so, and I would like that as good as he's done, Triple H really keeps his hands on those reins, but it won't take long to start to see whether or not the old man's fingerprints are back on the product. I mean, we all knew they were on the product. That's why they've been complaining for years overall. And why Shane almost won the darn thing last year. So,
Shane was the
problem. Yeah, exactly. If Vince is back, if Vince comes back on Raw 30, announces he's back and he's entering the Royal Rumble, then all bets are off. Oh, let's hope not. But anyway, Doug, you ready for a big finish?
I am ready for a big finish.
Let's start with botch the week. What do you say?
All right, man. So I understand Jay Briscoe said some very bad things in the past. He quickly course corrected with those. And, to this day, I'm not sure if the things he said were in character or legit. He seems to be a very religious and, man. And even in his apology tours that he's done multiple times, he seems very sincere. And I'm saying that ignoring and not acknowledging him other than just putting this thing up and letting your wrestlers, and I don't blame this on Tony Khan. I get that there are people at the parent company, the people who control the TV and the purse strings, really, that said no, we're not doing that. So I'm calling AEW, and not Tony's decision, but the corporate decision to not do more for Jay Briscoe on AEW, the botch this week.
So I do take extensive notes, as Doug showed. And so earlier in the week, I had my note, on Monday night, because it was so ridiculous. Baron Corbin made Lashley look like a fool because Lashley was supposed to be distracted by Omos. But he happened to be looking right at the stage to see Omos, and Baron Corbin did not bother to walk around the ring to sneak attack him. He ran right by him, like entered in front of him, and made Lashley had to look straight ahead like he didn't see him when he bounced. The announcers had to even draw attention to the fact that he must be so stunned by Omos he didn't see him, like Corbin run right past him. I marked that out. Same thing as you. Like, that's the silly world of wrestling I want to live in. And then there's all right, Warner Brothers Media, bad on you. I waited all night. Like, at the beginning, there was this, what we're used to seeing with the tribute graphic, and they said there'll be more later on in the show. I waited. It didn't come. And as it turns out, they filmed an entire Jay Briscoe show that they'll have to air on YouTube because Warner Brothers Media will not let them
YouTube and Honor Club.
Club. And that's just, I understand as a society, we hold people accountable for their actions. But if we are going to hold people accountable for being unenlightened, the hope is that they see the light. And when you don't offer a road for redemption, where you don't take someone at their word that they were wrong, and then they repeatedly have said, I feel so awful about that, I apologize, over and over. This should not follow the man literally to his grave.
Agreed.
It was awful. Like, that more was said on WWE television, where the man never worked a minute of on-air time, and AEW is not allowed to say more than what they did, is disgraceful. Just disgraceful. Definite botch.
Yeah.
On a happier note, Doug, match of the week.
So you're going to see a theme here with me, Kevin. Match of the week.
I like themes.
I like a good theme, just like a good stable. But match of the week. This one's for Jay, and anybody who wore a Jay armband on any promotion is match of the week for me. I'm not calling out anybody wrestling and their wrestling ability this week. It's the devotion and love they show to their friend and fallen comrade for across any promotion. Anybody who acknowledged Jay and wore those armbands, where there was the silent acknowledgement we got on a lot of promotions. Yeah, he was still acknowledged, and so every match where somebody had one of those on was match of the week this week for me.
I like that choice. My match of the week, I gave it to Young Bucks versus Top Flight, which was athletically incredible. Top Flight finally getting the win, which is the Young Bucks really putting over a young tag team who deserve it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the Young Bucks also, they had their bands on. They did one of the Briscoe finishers. It was just a great match all the way around. Doug, I'm sensing a theme here, and I think we're probably going to hit the same mark on the performer of the week then.
Jay Briscoe, man. Jay Briscoe. Rest in power, King.
The Warner Brother Media botch aside, the tributes from the armbands to the Young Bucks pulling off one of the Briscoe's finishers, to even WWE, again, a company Jay never worked for, interrupting their NXT broadcast to announce the news. It's just one of those sad but powerful moments where the entire world of wrestling comes together. When everything else took a backseat, to what's really important. Again, we do this for escape. We all watch this for escape, and then the real world comes in. Doug, I've made myself a little note here just to, I don't know, as I was thinking about this, why, like, what is so different about these kind of deaths in the world of wrestling? And, wrestling is a quasi sport and an entertainment performance at the same time. And therefore we root for pretend characters as we root for a sports star on our local team or something. And I think that makes us as fans feel closer to the performers then people
Right.
feel for like a fictional superhero.
Sure.
You feel like you know the person. And, you know, it's a unique culture that makes the world of wrestling wonderful. And it made us feel like over the last 20 years, we knew Jay Briscoe, even when we didn't really know the man who portrayed him, Jamin Pugh. And that is why it's hit everyone as hard as it did, because there is a part of Jamin Pugh that he shared with us for 20 years. And therefore you feel like you know him. So yeah, them boys forever, right?
Them boys forever.
And folks, with that, a heavy edition, I know, but it is, again, the heavy real world encroached on the world of professional wrestling this week. We do look forward to Royal Rumble next weekend, where we can all escape in some fantasy again. And Doug, what do you say you and I get back here 8 o'clock next week and talk about it?
Let's do it.
Folks, join us then and let us know what you think about the first brick on this road that we're building to WrestleMania. Next Sunday night, we'll see you then.
See you then. Take care, everybody.